In the beginning there was the poem, and the poem was made of words, and the words were made of letters and sounds, and the letters and sounds were made by people, and so the people had these poems made out of words, of letters and sounds all over the world. So the people gathered the poems together, and it was in the beginning, and it was the beginning of the People's Poetry Gathering, a living anthology. And Stanley Kunitz said it was the populous bacchanal. And the poems were strung on clotheslines provided by the Cordel poets of Brazil, and the poems were played through the 21 strings of the kora provided by the griots of West Africa, and the philosophical, philological, semiotical, deconstructivist poets argued long into the night about the meaning of meaning, and whether the gathering was a gathering of poets or poems. And Gregory Corso sat up from his deathbed and shouted, make the poet's choice. Take both of them. And the Cowboy poets rode in on the range, which was arranged in rhyme royale as invented by Chaucer, who is also gathered here today, as is Emily Dickinson and Walt Whitman and Lee Bow and Gwendolyn Brooks. And the slam poets all get tens. And youth speaks for itself because they're all poets, and the loggers logged on, and the fishermen poets hooked us, and the taxi poets proclaimed themselves hack poets, and the poets who eschew any name for themselves but the word poet, even they allowed us how they can gather, when the purpose of gathering is poetry for the people, of the people, by the people, and the words themselves ordered themselves to be made of the letters of the sounds, all of which are actually people. And when we get that far, when people are not only the poets, but also are the poems, then the gathering becomes this manifesto, and this manifesto stops with the words, in the beginning, and in the end. The sounds gathered, and the letters gathered, and the words gathered, and the poetry gathered, and the people gathered. And that's why it's the People's Poetry Gathering.
I've got the blues, baby, beyond anyone's belief. I mean, bullet blocking, shorty clocking, weave watching, pants look like they're dropping to the timberlands. On your feet, these blues. These 121st Street blues, man, they just won't leave me alone. They become natural like that street corner that became your second home. Be a man, a real man, don't blame the other man for putting the poison in your hands and sell to your own brother, man, a woman. Damn these blues. These 125th Street blues, girl, don't let them grasp your soul. Be bold, black pearl, baby girl, tell me what are you really all about, and tell me why do you go around vendoring your vagina like a Girl Scout? These blues. These 125th Street blues, man, they've got me caught up in their mix. Like the living dead, better known as the crackhead lying on Lexington's ghetto bed, longing for a fix. Damn, I've got the blues, and they travel up and down my spine, twisting and turning, hanging on my vine, becoming intoxicated by the infiltrated palm wine. And you call me a dime, a nickel bag, a deuce deuce. Black man, tell me why do you allow that Cuban link around your neck to replace the noose? I've got the blues. I've got the blues ever so deeper. I mean, kill you for a sneaker, rob you for a beeper, baby girl, have a baby so a man won't leave a brown sugar. It ever tastes so sweet, our blues, baby.
Mergulhei uma vez no oceano, descobri o palacete de Juno. De lá fui ao reinado de Netuno, hospedei-me por lá, passei um ano. E de frente ao palácio soberano, vi três fadas sentadas na areia. Eram elas três filhas da sereia, a mais linda cantava uma canção e dizia, eu nasci pra azulão. Ele é o sol e eu sou a lua cheia.
Okay, next tip after he did outer space was to dive down into the very bottom of the water. And there he saw all sorts of wonderful sights, including 3 mermaids, right? And he had the choice of these 3 mermaids, right? And one of them said, I'll take Azulão. I'm not sure which of this ready.
Se você chegar no Rio de Janeiro, e quiser me ver com facilidade, apanhe um transporte lá pela cidade, passe Botafogo, bastante ligeiro, e um túnel novo é por derradeiro, e depois que o túnel novo atravessar, procure um polícia para se informar, mas fale direito, se não vai em cana, que eu vivo sentado em Copacabana, cantando galope na beira do mar.
If you're going to Rio and want to find me, here are the directions. They're a little complicated. Go here, there, and everywhere, right? But you'll find me eventually in Copacabana, singing by the seaside. Everything ends in by the seaside. And actually, this is 12 syllables. The one he just did before that was 10.
Em Copacabana, Ipanema e Leblon, diariamente só se vê sereia de barraca armada, deitada na areia, comendo pipoca, chupando que bom. Tem delas que acham aquilo tão bom que põe de propósito as pernas para o ar. Outra pelo meio começa a passar de maio biquíni, com tudo de fora. Tem cabra que baba, sapateia e chora de ver tanta carne na beira do mar.
Those of you who understood know, this is about what happens when you go to Copacabana and you see the mermaids sort of hanging around there eating popcorn. And
sai noivo com noiva numa manhã bela, que vão para a praia bancar jacaré, morde no joelho, puxa pelo pé, mergulha distante, sai por baixo dela, escancha no ombro, levanta com ela, dali cambalhota da água espalhar. Aponta a cabeça, torna a mergulhar, se esconde com ela por baixo da onda. Depois de 6 meses ela está redonda, só de beber água da beira do mar.
This is what happens when the local alligators make a little dive down to the bottom of the sea and start to play around with some of those mermaids. And they have a really kind of good time, except that 6 months later, the mermaid...
We went through this sort of people's poetry gathering, and I was just absolutely ecstatic, and I sort of bounced from one event to the next, from the cute cowboy poets to Carolina Slim, to the ringa, to the rap, to the blues, and sort of back again. And it was really an ecstatic joining together of voices. But the entire time that I was doing this, I had such an image in my head of this great angel oak, alive with singing birds. And every event I went to, there were more of these birds singing in this tree. But for me, always, the heartwood, the taproot of this tree is the poem itself, that great voice within us that celebrates the inner life of one man or woman talking in this music of feeling in the most profound, important ways about our shared realities and world.
From the historic Great Hall at Cooper Union in beautiful downtown Manhattan, the World Poetry Bout Association and the People's Poetry Gathering present an officially sanctioned heavyweight bout. The main event, 7 rounds of poetry for the heavyweight championship of New York City. In the far corner, the East Coast's #1 contender, 4-time National Slam champion, representing the feminine gender, fresh from bloody battles against ignorance and prejudice, as uppity as they come, ladies and gentlemen, Patricia Smith!
As uppity as they come.
Uppity. And in the near corner, from the Spokane Coeur d'Alene Reservation and Seattle, Washington, representing the indigenous people of this continent. Ladies and gentlemen, the undisputed, undefeated, world heavyweight champion poet, Sherman Alexie.
First one's called Defending Walt Whitman. Basketball is like this for young Indian boys, all arms and legs and serious stomach muscles, and everybody is brown. These are the 20th century warriors who will never kill, although a few sat quietly in the deserts of Kuwait waiting for orders to do something, do something, do something. God, there is nothing as beautiful as a jump shot on a reservation summer basketball court where the ball is moist with sweat and makes a sound when it swishes through the net that causes Walt Whitman to weep because it is so perfect. There are veterans of foreign wars here whose bodies are still dominated by collarbones and knees, whose bodies still respond in the ways that bodies are supposed to respond when we are young, and everybody is brown. Look there. That boy can run up and down this court forever. He can leap for a rebound with his back arched like a salmon, all meat and bone, synchronized, magnetic, as if the court were a river, as if the rim were a dam, as if the air were a ladder leading the Indian boy toward home. Some of these Indian boys still wear their military haircuts while a few have let their hair grow back, but it will never be the same as it was before.
Angry, jubilant, weeping poets, we are all saviors, reluctant hosannas in the limelight, but you knew that, didn't you? So let us bless this 6th grade class. 40 cracking voices, 40 nappy heads, and all of them raise their hands when I ask. They have all seen the Reaper, grim in his heavy robe, pushing the button for the Dead Project elevator, begging for a break at the corner pawn shop, cackling wildly in the back pew of the Baptist church. I asked the death question, and 40 fists punched the air. Me! Me! In O'Neill, Matchstick Crackchild watched his mother's body become a claw, and 9-year-old Tico Jefferson, barely big enough to lift the gun, fired a bullet into his throat when Mama bended his back with a lead pipe. Tamika cried into a sofa pillow when Daddy blasted Mama into the north wall of their cluttered one-room apartment. Danya's cousin, gone in a drive-by, dark window. Click, click, gone, says Danya, her tiny finger a barrel, the thumb a hammer. I am astonished at their losses. And yet, when I read a poem about my own hard-eyed teenager, Jeffrey asks, is he dead yet? It could not be comprehended. An 18-year-old still pushing his own breath. And 40 faces pity me, knowing that I will soon be as they are, numb to our bloodied histories, favoring the Reaper with a thumbs up and a wink, hearing the question and shouting, me, Miss Smith, I know somebody dead. Can poetry hurt us, they ask me, crawling into my words to sleep. I love you, Nicole says. Nicole wearing my face, pimples peppering her nose, and she is as black as angels are. Nicole's braids kissed with match flame to seal them. And can you teach me to write a poem about my mama, Miss Smith? I mean, you write about your daddy, and he's dead. Can you teach me to remember my mama? A teacher tells me this is the first time Nicole has admitted that her mother is gone. Murdered by slim silver needles and a stranger rifling through her blood, the virus pushing her skeleton through for Nicole to see. And now this child with rusty knees and mismatched shoes sees poetry as her scream and asks me for the words to build her mother again, replacing the voice, stitching on the lost flesh. So poets, as we take the stage, as we flirt and sin and rejoice behind microphones, remember Nicole. She knows that we are here now, and she is an empty vessel waiting to be filled.
That's not your true voice.
But how can you craft your own voice? How can you come to know what your niche
You
is?
don't craft it, it just comes out.
But it has to be.
Okay, but what she was trying to say was that by reading other poets, you're being influenced by them, so it's not you.
Well, I read a
It's
lot
them,
of.
it's whatever's rubbing off that's theirs.
Well, I read a lot of Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton and Robert Lowell, and I understand what they're saying. They speak to me. It's almost like their poems were written. They're saying.
Okay, what you're saying is that you're understanding different authors.
Yes.
That's not necessarily your true voice.
No. But what I'm saying is I've always written somewhat like them, and by reading them, I'm able to smooth. It's smoothing out the rough edges. It's knowing what works and how they're taking risks, and how they're letting you know what they're feeling. You know.
What I'm saying, when you're like just regurgitating like another poet.
Oh, but that's not really poetry. That's like plagiarism.
Are you writing poems? There's no need for you to write the poems that I've already written, or that Elizabeth Bishop has written, or that Pablo Neruda has written. You have to write the poems that only you can write. But if you never learn it from other poetry, you're doomed to fall into this sort of vast cauldron of poetry that all sounds alike. Oddly enough, the way that you are delivered to your own feelings in poetry, to writing about them, is learning how to do it from other poets and then applying it, using it, taking it to your own experience in your own life.
When I was 4 years old, they tried to test my IQ. They showed me this picture of 3 oranges and a pear, and they asked me which one is different and does not belong. They taught me different is wrong. But when I was 13 years old, I woke up one morning, thighs covered in blood like a warning that I live in a breakable, takeable body, an ever-increasingly valuable body, that a woman had come in the night to replace me, deface me. See, my body is borrowed. I got it on loan for the time in between my mom and some maggot sailor needing one to hold me. I can hold my own. I got highways for stretch marks. See where I've grown. And I sing sometimes like my life is at stake, 'cause you're only as loud as the noises you make. I am learning to laugh as hard as I can listen, 'cause silence is violence, and women are poor people. If more people were screaming, then I could relax. But a good brain isn't diddly if you don't have the facts. We live in a breakable, takeable world, an ever available, possible world, and we can make music like we can make do. Genius is in the backseat to nothing if you're dancing, especially something stupid like IQ. For every lie I unlearn, I learn something new. And I sing sometimes for the war that I fight, 'cause every tool is a weapon if you hold it right. Ooh, lot less guitar, lot less, please. Is play you a Woody Guthrie song. Folks back east, they say, are leaving home every day, beating a hot old dusty way out to the California line. Across the desert sands they roll, trying to get out of that old dust bowl. They think they're going to a sugar bowl, but this is what they find. Police at the port of entry say, you're number 14,000 for today. And if you ain't got the do-re-mi, baby, if you ain't got the do-re-mi, you better go back to your beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or to see. But believe it or not, you won't find it so high if you ain't got the do-re-mi. Maybe you want a house or a farm, not do nobody no harm. Just take your vacations by the mountains or the sea. Well, don't sell that old cow for a car. You might want to stay right where you are. Take a little advice from me. 'Cause I read the one ads every day, and the papers always say, if you ain't got the do-re-mi, boy, if you ain't got the do-re-mi, you better go back to your beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. When I was 18, and I didn't have a plan or a fucking, I had a 2-month sublet, you know, and that was about it. And I was walking down 12th Street, and I saw this building that said the New School for Social Research, and I was like, what the fuck is that? So I walked in, and I got a little pamphlet, you know, and it was a kind of interesting pamphlet, so I started to show up for classes, and one of the first classes I walked into was a poetry class given by Mr. Sekou Sundiata, and he rocked my world day one. And so I spent like a couple of semesters there going to everything that he taught. Basically, that was my schedule, follow Sekou around. And so if there's anybody who taught me everything I know, it's that guy right there, I'll tell you.
Here's to the best words in the right place at the perfect time, to the human mind blown up and refined, to long conversations and the philosophical ramifications of a beautiful day. Here's to the 12 steppers at the 13th step. May they never forget the first step. To the increase, to the decrease, to the do, to the did, 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 to the done, to the lonely, to the brokenhearted. To the new blue haiku, here's to all or nothing at all. Here's to the sick and the shut in. To the was you been, to the is you in, to what's deep and deep, to what's down and down, to the lost and the blind and the almost found. To the crazy, the lazy, the bored, the ignored, the beginners, the sinners, the losers, the winners, to the smooth and the cool, and even to the fools. Here's to your ex-best friend. To the rule benders and the repeat offenders. To the lovers and the troublers, the engaging, the enraging, to the healers and the feelers and the fixers and the tricksters, to a star falling through a dream, to a dream when you know what it means, to the bottom, to the root, to the base, boom, boom, to the drum, to the was you been, to the is you in, to what's deep and deep, to what's down and down, to the lost and the blind and the almost found. Here's to somebody who can't be within the sound of your voice this morning. To somebody who can't be within the sound of your voice tonight. Here's to a low cholesterol pig sandwich smothered in swine without the pork. Here's to a light buzz in your head and a soundtrack in your mind going on and on and on and on and on and on and on like a good time. Here's to promises that break by themselves. Here's to the breaks with great promise. Here's to people who don't wait in the car when you tell them to wait in the car. Here's to the unforgettable, to the was you been, to the is you in, to what's deep and deep, to what's down and down, to the lost and the blind and the almost found. Here's to the hip-hoppers, the don't-stoppers, heads nodding in the digital glow of their beloved studios. To the incredible, indelible impressions made by the gazes you gaze in the faces of strangers. To yourself you ask, could this be God straight up, or is it a mask? Here's to the tribe of the hyper-cyber, tripping at the virtual most outpost, at the edge, on the tip, believing that what they hear is the mothership drawing near. To the was you been, to the is you in, to what's deep and deep, to what's down and down, to the lost and the blind and the almost found.
There is a Spanish poet named Vicente Espinel who in the 1500s developed the 10-line decimal system. And it's actually 8 syllables. 8 syllables each line going across, and it's the 10 lines going down. So as they're thinking, counting the syllables going across, they're thinking also the 10 lines that they're going down, and at the same time, they're dealing with the theme. And they're inventing it on the spot and creating and bringing up the words so that they fall right on time. And the rhyme scheme is the following: A, B, B, A, A, C, C, D, D, C. And that's how that goes. And that's not no easy task. For you poets of text must know that.
I don't know if somebody has a pie forzado.
Sí.
I think I heard something.
What was it?
La voz de la libertad. Beautiful.
Voice of liberty.
Entre edificios silbando, entre edificios silbando, este arte sostenemos y le juro que tenemos los edificios trovando. En lo duro armonizando, en lo duro armonizando con la sincera verdad y la verticalidad que nos llega en este vuelo y nos grita desde el cielo la voz de la libertad y nos grita desde el cielo la voz de la libertad.
Ella que está allí en la esquina, ella que está allí en la esquina, ahora la noto gozando, si sé que está contemplando la música campesina y de una forma divina. Ella me ve con lealtad y con gran serenidad. Esa mujer nos bendice con el pie forzado que dice la voz de la libertad. Con el pie forzado que dice la voz de la libertad. Arturito Santiago. Ángel Nieves.
Yo quiero que quede claro. Yo quiero que quede claro inmensidad. Por eso con dignidad haré un verso con calibre, porque yo quiero que vibre la voz de la libertad, porque yo quiero que vibre la voz de la libertad. Arturo.
Allá en el pueblo ponceño, allá en el pueblo ponceño, un día un niño nació que cuando adulto lanzó un grito que se hizo sueño. Trabajó con mucho empeño y con verticalidad. Se fue a la eternidad, pero no acabó su lucha, pues de Albizu aún se escucha la voz de la libertad, pues de Albizu aún se escucha la voz de la libertad.
When at last the waters receded, and the dove brought back the olive tree leaf.
Don't punctuate this rambling sentence with your tongue or trace your name on the backs of my legs. Please don't walk the question of your breath along my thighs or draw a map on my quivering breastbone guiding me to you, me to you, me to you. Do not play me that way. Don't play me that way, the way the sax man plays his lady, blowing into her mouth until she cries, allowing her no breath of her own. Don't play me that way, baby, the way the sax man plays his lady, that strangling, soft murder, notes like bullets, riffs like knives, and the downbeat slapping into her, and she sighs. Into her, and she cries. Into her, and she whines like the night turning. Just let me sit here on the bar stool sipping something bitter. Let me cross my legs slow like the colored girls do, and let me feel your eyes go there. Let me feed on glory and grow fat. Meanwhile, lover, let's fill this wicked church with music. Let me lean to the song for once without your mouth on me. The music a lit match under my skin, and I dance, all legs and thunderous and heels too high. I dance, cheap perfume and black nail polish, shark skin congregation, heads pressed, attitudes too tight. Won't scream until it gets to be too much. Won't beg for mercy until I wreck the landscape with my hips. Bar stools filling. Everybody's waiting for the glory to move through me. Rock me with hosannas, shake me with hallelujahs to break these bored bones. They wait for you, supreme love, to pull me out onto the dance floor. Whisper come-ons in my ear. Make me kick my heels above my head, high heels above my nappy head. While they wait, I will dance with the sax man. I will shimmer as he presses my keys. Him and me bopping, we are wicked church. So do not play, do not play, do not play. Did you hear me tell you do not play me that way? The way I prayed to be played. Mama say the Lord enters you in stages. Play me that way. First like a lit match under my skin. Play me that way. Then like an animal biting through bone with soft teeth. Play me. Mama say lie still that way. And consume me that way. Press my keys that way. Press my keys that way. Press that key over there. Wait a minute. Press that key to the left. Come on over here and press this key 2 times. That felt pretty good. Wait a minute. Let's. Don't pay me no mind, lover. I always shudder.
Person who taught me about memorization in some really profound way as a poet was Galway Cannell. If you take a workshop with Mr. Cannell, you memorize a poem a week and you come into your class prepared to say it. And Galway, I'm sure, has hundreds of poems under his poetry belt by this time. And during this group, this people poetry gathering, where we heard these national verbal treasures, one of which was Galway himself, he recited this beautiful poem by Dylan Thomas.
In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, when only the moon rages and the lovers lie abed with all their griefs in their arms. I labor by singing light, not for ambition or bread or the strut and trade of charms on the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud man apart from the raging moon I write on these spindrift pages, nor for the towering dead with their nightingales and psalms, but for the lovers, their arms
round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise or wages, nor heed my craft or art. For me, hearing Galway say this poem and hearing how these lines had entangled in his own poetry life and very self made me understand the profound importance of memorizing a poem.
Poetry carries knowledge, that there's a certain kind of knowledge that's needed in culture. I believe that if poetry didn't carry this knowledge, it would die out. That poetry doesn't just exist because it's an entertainment. It exists because we need it. That is, there's something in the, there's never been a culture without it. This makes me think there's something that's necessary in poetry for culture. And once cultures have writing, it's pretty evident that writing can do things that oral literatures can't do. And similarly, oral poetries can do things that writing can't do. And it's true that written poetry does allow you to go back and reread, to read at your own pace, to scan, to go back and check something. Whereas oral poetry comes over you like a wave. It keeps going. You can't stop the performance and say, I have a question here, the way you can stop a reading.
I want to get one of these books. I want to buy a poetry book.
Read that one, sir. It's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lip.
Oh gosh.
I'm a woman. You know, okay. I think you could have written that. I know. Yeah.
Another poet who we have all been influenced by is a man by the name of Charles Badger Clark. He was the poet laureate of South Dakota. And he wrote all of his cowboy poetry while he worked on a ranch in southern Arizona, not far from Tombstone, Arizona. Rode across the valley range I had not seen for years. The trail was all so sport and strange, it nearly fetched a tear. And I had to let 10 fences down, the fussy lanes ran wrong. Each new line would make me frown, hum this morning song. Hear 'em stretching of the wire, why the urban brand is on the land. Reckon I'll retire, while progress toots its greedy horn, makes its motor buzz. Thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was. Well, when my old soul hunts range and rest beyond the last divide, plant me in some strip of west, sunny, lone, and wide, and let cattle rub my tombstone round. Let coyotes mourn their kin. Let horses come and paw the mound. Don't you fence it in. Closer, closer crawls the wire. crowd and pinch another inch. It's all their heart's desire. The world is overstocked with men, and some will see the day when each must keep his little pen, but I'll be far away. While progress toots its greedy horn, makes its moldy buzz, thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was. I just thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The final round must be improvised. Each poet draw a slip of paper out of the hat. They will read it and hand it to me, and I will read it to you, and they have 30 seconds to begin speaking. Sherman draws vibrato.
We'll call this Indian opera. Praise the opera. Praise my opera of pain. Praise the Reservation opera. Praise my enemies before they defeat me. Praise the soldier with the baritone. Praise the insecurity with the vibrato. Praise the soprano, praise the soprano, praise the soprano fear. Praise the soprano voice of my mother when she gave birth to me, and praise my soprano voice when they cut her fallopian tubes. Praise the soprano of the nurse holding me in the air. Praise the baritone of the doctor slapping me. Praise the vibrato of my first cry. Praise the Indian opera, praise the Indian opera, praise my enemies before they defeat me, praise the birth of my child, praise the birth of my child, praise the heat of his arrival, praise the heat of his arrival, praise his paper lungs, praise his paper lungs, praise his paper lungs burned and twisted in the heat of his arrival, praise his twisted lungs burned in the heat of his arrival, praise his twisted and folded lungs burned in the heat of his arrival, praise his origami lungs, praise the heart and lung machine, praise the heart and lung machine, praise the nurses and doctors, praise the vibrato of the heart machine, the vibrato of the heart machine, praise the vibrato of my son's heart, praise the vibrato of the heart machine, and the doctors praise the soprano of the nurse, the whispered soprano of the nurse when she says he might not make it, praise his enemies before they defeat him, praise him walking out of the hospital, praise him crawling out of the hospital, praise his enemies, praise his life, praise oxygen, praise the lack of oxygen, praise the soprano of a lungs that will not work, praise his soprano cry, praise his vibrato cry when they take him off the heart and lung machine, praise the vibrato of his cry when they take him off the heart machine, praise gravity when we take him home, praise gravity when we take him home, praise the long set of stairs, praise the pedophile in the supermarket, praise my own anger, my own temper. Praise in the middle of the night when we hear him cry and we wonder if he's crying for the last time. Praise the heart and lung machine. Praise the vibrato of the heart and lung machine. Praise the night sky. Praise the reservation. Praise General Armstrong Custer disguised as a heart and lung machine. Praise Christopher Columbus disguised as a heart and lung machine. Praise the middle of the night crying. Praise the middle of the night crying. Praise the pedophile. Praise the child molester. Praise his enemies lest they defeat him. Praise the faces on the milk cartons. Praise the faces on television. Praise the runaways. Praise the runaways. Praise my own fears. Praise the vibrato of my own fears. The opera of my own fears. Praise the missing children. Praise my child here now and who might be missing. Praise the vibrato of my fear. Praise my child's fears. Praise my mother's fears. Praise my father's fears. Praise my siblings' fears. Praise my fears. Praise my enemies lest they defeat me.
Welcome to the reading of Poe and Friends.
You're right. We're here to join spirits with Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote The Black Cat within 3 blocks of this spot in a building that NYU is currently considering tearing down. Petitions available at the gate.
This is the 150th anniversary of Poe's death, and I think it's pertinent to remember his beginnings. So I'd like to just remind those of you who already knew this, and many of you who don't know this, that Poe's mother, Eliza, died at the young age of 24 of consumption, or tuberculosis as we call it. And what happened was that Edgar was 3 at the time and was with the corpse of Eliza for people surmise at least 1 to 2 days. And Edgar was found with his younger brother near the body of his mother, in bed with her. And I think that's appropriate, since cemeteries were kind of like a second home for Edgar. From that point on, his relationship to the dead was especially intimate.
Alone. From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone.
Boy, do you look beautiful. You know, this is an old WPA auditorium here. You know, I got to admit, I'm a poetry addict. I can't get enough of the stuff. For this last 3 days, the People's Poetry Gathering has been going non-stop, 24 hours times 24 hours times 24 hours. This is the last scheduled event of the People's Poetry Gathering, and it's kind of like the essence of what we've been looking for. Here you got guys who all their lives have just been working with music and crowds that have been as intimate as their living room, and all of a sudden the words that they've been saying have been uncovered as the real poetry of these United States. Boy, oh boy.
You should touch those things, Ross. You don't have a union card in that. Well, Jack just headed out. Big Montana bedroll, started piping the main stem, you know, panhandling, working his way across the country with a little frying pan tied onto his bedroll bindle, See, that's how he got his moniker, which was always your alias. Somebody'd always say to him, "What are you cooking in that frying pan, old man?" He'd say, "I don't know, what you got?" Fry pan Jack, head full of words, songs, poems, stories. He didn't make up songs and poems. He harvested them from the world around him and then scattered them abroad like dry leaves for people like us to find and put back to work. He was old enough to remember the sway rods under the boxcars, the old wooden boxcars called Riding the Rods. Poem from him. The bum on the rods is hunted down as an enemy of mankind. The other is driven around to his club as feted, wined, and dined. And they who curse the bum on the rods as the essence of all that's bad will greet the other with a winning smile and extend the hand so glad. The bum on the rods is a social flea who gets an occasional bite. The bum on the plush is a social leech, blood-sucking day and night. The bum on the rods is a load so light that his weight we scarcely feel, but it takes to labor of dozens of folks to furnish the other a meal. As long as we sanction the bum on the plush, the other will always be there. But rid ourselves of the bum on the plush and the other will disappear. Then make an intelligent, organized kick. Get rid of the weights that crush. Don't worry about the bum on the rods. Get rid of the bum on the plush. Ask any old timer around old Cheyenne. Ray Road in Wyoming is the best in the land. A long steel rail and a short cross tie laid out over the Great Divide. Railroading on the Great Divide. Nothing around me but the Rockies and sky. It's there you'll find me as years roll by. Railroading on the Great Divide.
There is so much controversy in there, I need a Valium.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a split decision. By the narrowest of margins, Sherman Alexie is the first heavyweight champion poet of New York.
I think that tonight before, I leave this beautiful stage in English, I should engage. Here my thanks to CityLore, 'cause they have opened the door to something that has solution to the terrible pollution that is keeping us apart. I think this is going to start a cultural revolution. I think this is going to start a cultural revolution.